All right, what's going on, everybody? I hope everyone's doing well and everyone is safe. Well, the boxing media does it to us again. I did a video yesterday talking about this. The big news was apparently or allegedly, according to The Athletic, they had some quotes in there from some sources, and we all know how these sources are. They tend to be wrong more often than not, especially in the sport of boxing. So this is nothing new to us if we've been following the sport. But I did the video yesterday and we talked about the reported news from The Athletic that Deontay Wilder would be willing to step aside for $10 million for a step aside fee. And also, he wanted a guaranteed shot at the winner of Fury Joshua if that fight were to take place instead of his rematch. But lo and behold, like I said, boxing media continues to do it to us. I speculated yesterday that this was probably a rumor or most likely a rumor, but I was, talking about it hypothetically if it were to happen and would it make sense to happen and just would it be affordable and would it be even plausible? And I went over some possible scenarios and we all kind of went over it together collectively, people in the chat, and we thought it was going to be a stretch, but like I said, we can't trust these stories when they have sources in them and they don't have actual quotes from the fighter. So Eddie Hearn recently had an interview with Sky Sports, and we have some actual quotes from Eddie Hearn with this interview that he recently did, and this is what he had to say. So he told Sky Sports it would probably okay, hold on, that's not the actual one. He said Wilder is not going to be stepping aside, so Pulev is the fight for us. I had a conversation saying Wilder is not stepping aside. We will take care of that fight. You take care of the Pulev fight, but let's get a deal done for 2021. So Eddie Hearn likes to have these agreements in place ahead of time, even though that there's fights already scheduled. And we saw what happened when he put the cart before the horse with the Joshua Ruiz first fight. We saw what happened there. And it looks like he's trying to do that again, putting the cart before the horse. Let's just take care of these fights first, and then we can start. Then we can start negotiating the second fight or the fight with Fury, because Eddie Hearn's already talking about having two fights with Fury. Let's get past Pulev and let Fury get past Wilder, and then we can start negotiating and talking about a unification bout. So this is some more quotes from this. He said, "We have no problem signing now to fight Fury in 2021. It will work out better for both of them to box off those fights," meaning those fights that they have already scheduled, "then have a clear route, subject to Dillian White being mandatory to Fury to get the undisputed fight done." So you don't even know what the WBC is going to do. And once again, you're getting ready to screw over Dillian White, who's been top-ranked contender in the WBC for almost 2 years now. And the guy's been getting screwed over. And once again, you don't have a problem at all stepping over him to get this unification fight done. So how long does Dillian White have to stay in line, number one? And number two, when is this guy going to get his shot? Now, would I want to see a Fury versus Joshua fight before a Fury versus Dillian White fight? Probably. But would I hate a Fury versus Dillian White fight? No, I would not hate that fight. So it looks like that story that was being floated around yesterday, or I think it was the day before yesterday that it first came out, ended up being BS. And it looks like Fury is going to end up fighting Wilder for the third time. And Joshua's going to be forced to fight Pulev. And, Fury came out yesterday. I think it was on his Instagram, either his Instagram or his Twitter. And he said, hey, I don't want to fight Joshua next. I want to get Wilder out of the way. I want the Wilder fight. And then we could talk about Joshua next. So he wasn't too keen on having Wilder step aside because he would have to agree to that as well. Even if Wilder said, hey, I'm not going to fight, whatever, then Fury would have to still agree to fight Joshua. And it looks like nobody was really on board with this thing right from the beginning. And I know Hearn was talking about it before, floating it out there. But we all know what Eddie Hearn likes to do. He likes to float these things out there because he wants to get attention. And all the power to him. Good for him. Because, the more people talk about his fighter, the more people talk about Joshua versus Fury, then the more interest gets drummed up for the fight. So even if he wants to float these little rumors out there or what have you, all in all, I think it's still good promotion for the fight. But most people who know how this sport works, we know the truth and what's going to happen. Fight Doctor, you're on here, man. What do you think, bro?
I think that I really don't want to see the Wilder Fury rubber match. I mean, the fight wasn't competitive. Wilder's coming off of this surgery on his left arm. And I just don't want to see that fight. The fight that I really want to see is Fury and Joshua. I think, that's really the fight which needs to happen right now. And every other fight at heavyweight is just a afterthought, in my opinion. I mean, I really, really don't want to see a third fight between those two guys, at least not right now. I think, Fury and Joshua need to, figure out who's going to be top dog at heavyweight, and I think Wilder needs to retool and reassess his career and, what he wants to do. But look, can the third fight realistically even happen? I mean, there's not going to look, if they're going to fight in America, where are they going to fight? And, can that fight get made without a live gate? I mean, if there's nobody there to watch, there's nobody there to pay, to make up a live gate, then, how does that fight happen realistically? So, if logistically it can't happen, then why are we even talking about it? I mean, I don't even know. I think that question needs to be answered. Can this fight happen realistically, given the situation?
Well, first off, Fight Doctor, no offense. I guess this Box Talk 88 said in the chat, he wants me to correct you. He said it can't be a rubber match because Wilder didn't win the first fight. But I'm guessing you're saying because the fight was a draw that no one really won, so it's like that's why it's a rubber match in that regard. But someone in the chat asked me to correct you on that, and it is what it is. That's not a big deal to me, but you know how these people are sometimes in the chat. But he makes a good point. I'm not going to dismiss his point as well. But let me ask you this, because there's still Dillian Whyte floating around out there as the WBC #1 contender, and at some point he's going to be the mandatory challenger. They keep stringing him along, and Eddie Hearn, who promotes him, keeps stringing him along. Do you think before the unification fight even takes place, do you think that he should get his shot at Fury, or the winner of that Fury Wilder third fight? Do you think he deserves that shot? And would you be against seeing that? I mean, I think that would be a great fight.
All right. So 2 words. When I think of Dillian Whyte, 2 words come to mind. Who cares? Seriously, who cares? I mean, this guy is the WBC mandatory or whatever, good for him. It just means that, his promoter kisses the most WBC ass. That's essentially what that means. I don't care. Honestly, the fight that I want to see is Fury and Joshua. Every other fight right now, in my mind, is an afterthought. Really. I don't care. Seriously. I mean, does this guy deserve a title shot? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. But is that the fight I want to see next? Fury having to fight Dillian Whyte? No, I don't care. Seriously, I don't. If the fight happens, cool, fine. you know, Fury gets to take care of his mandatory. But is that the fight I really want to see? No, I don't care. Seriously, I just don't. And I hate to step on the toes of any UK Dillian White fans out there. I'm sorry, but I just do not care.
Do you think Dillian White even deserves that ranking? Do you think it's justified that he was made mandatory? Do you think that he's earned that shot? Because it sounds like you don't think he's earned that shot, talking about how you feel about him. Am I right in saying that? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, I'll put it this way. No, I don't think. I mean, who is the guy really beaten? No. So no, he doesn't. I don't think. Is he? If the question is he a worthy challenger? Then maybe yes. But is there a mandate? Is there a demand for Dillian White to get a shot at the heavyweight title? I don't think so. I mean, what is the outstanding win on his resume that mandates a title shot? What has he done where you can point to and say, okay, well, this is the reason why this guy deserves a shot at the heavyweight championship of the world, because he beat XYZ. He beat this guy here. He dominated that guy over there. I don't know that you can say that about his career. So, is the guy mandated? Has a mandate been made for him to fight for the heavyweight title? No, I don't think so. No. But is he a worthy challenger? Yes.
Had my mic muted there. Sorry about that. Before I ask my next question to Fight Doctor, I just want to ask you guys a question in the chat. Do you like this layout, how I have it right now with this backdrop here, this overlay? Do you like this type of appearance for the show? And is this something that you would like to see Eric and myself do for future shows? Do you think it looks better this way, or do you like the way Eric and I do it currently? I just want to get people's opinions on the chat. Just want some feedback on that. But yeah, obviously I think most people would want to see the unification bout. But I have another question for you. Do you think that Pulev could upset the apple cart? Do you think that Joshua could have a mental letdown, possibly, because now he's talking about Fury, and before the Ruiz fight, he was thinking about Wilder a lot, and he got distracted, it seemed, and we saw what happened in the first Ruiz fight. Now that he's focused on Fury so much and talking about Fury so much, and now the conversation has shifted towards Fury more so than Pulev, could this be another distraction for Joshua? And do you think that Pulev has an opening here to score an upset and upset the apple cart once again?
Listen, prior to the first Ruiz fight, I thought that Joshua was a knockout waiting to happen, which actually did happen in the first Ruiz fight. Klitschko had him basically out, and I believe it was the 5th round. Klitschko coming off of 18 months off and a loss. Now, Klitschko is a good fighter, and he has good power. So, I wasn't exactly surprised that Klitschko was able to put him down, but he was out. Klitschko nearly had him out. And I think part of the reason that Klitschko was able to sort of have the success that he had and Ruiz is that, well, if you look at Joshua's record, it's padded with soft touches. I mean, it's just, look, it's like going to the grocery store. It's just a string of tomato cans. They brought this guy along very, very soft. And, the minute he ups his opposition, what happens? Well, he gets almost knocked out. And then he gets knocked out by the guy who was the substitute teacher. Andy Ruiz was a replacement. Okay, he wasn't even the guy that they were supposed to fight initially. You get knocked out by the substitute teacher. So I don't have a lot of confidence in Anthony Joshua's chin, to be completely honest. Now, he has a skill set. The guy knows how to fight. There's no question about that. He knows how to box. However, it's just, there are certain intangibles that I think play a role where, boxing is concerned. And so far, especially what we saw in the first Ruiz fight, we saw a guy mentally check out. He got beat up and then got beat down, and then he mentally checked out. So, the question is, will we see that again? Will we see that in the Pulev fight? I don't know. Maybe. I think, the fight is interesting. I think the Pulev fight, look, in the Ruiz fight, we saw a guy essentially pull a Buster Douglas and lay down. The guy in, Ruiz didn't give himself the best chance to win. He was too busy, eating at his favorite fast food restaurant instead of training, and basically just showed up for a payday. So I really don't rate that win. I discount that win, to be completely honest. Now, if Pulev actually shows up to win, then we'll see. We'll see. What's going on with Anthony Joshua when he gets taken to a place that isn't necessarily comfortable. If Pulev can take him there, So I don't know. I honestly don't know. Listen, I think there's a good chance that Pulev pulls off the upset, to be completely honest.
So it sounds to me like you think that Fury is probably a lock, but you're not 100% sure about Joshua. So you think Fury has a more significant chance. It's more obvious in that situation, and you're more confident in that fight that Fury will win than Joshua would win against Pulev. So you think that Joshua has a tougher fight ahead of him, in your opinion? Is that safe to say?
I think that Fury, if he fights Wilder in his next fight, I think the chances of him winning are significantly better than the chances in Joshua beating Pulev. Now, that's not to say that I believe Pulev will beat Joshua. I'm not saying that at all. But I am more confident in Fury winning his next fight than I am in Joshua winning his next fight.
So if like Pulev was like a 4-1 underdog or a 5-1 underdog, would it be worth it for someone to lay some short money on him? Would it make sense to do that?
So I've never believed in betting the odds. It's great if you feel a fighter that you think will win is getting good odds. But at the end of the day, I always bet on the guy who I think is going to win, regardless of what the odds say, if I'm going to bet. Honestly, that's a tough question. I might be tempted to put, a little bit of change on Pulev if I got, good odds. But, the question is, do I really think Pulev is going to win? And the answer to that question is, I don't know. I don't think so.
So let me rephrase the question. Percentage-wise, what is the percent that you would put on the chances of Fury winning? And what is the percent that you would put on the chances of Pulev winning, percentage-wise?
Well, I think I would have to make Fury a heavy underdog. A heavy favorite. I would give it what? Honestly, I would give Fury 5-6 to 1, to be completely honest. I just don't think Wilder is going to be able to, coming off of surgery and coming off the beatdown that he got in his last fight, I just don't see him winning. He has a puncher's chance, put it to you that way. Maybe he'll catch Fury snoozing. Maybe Fury will go on a coke bin. Who knows? But, maybe the planets will align. Maybe lightning will strike twice in the same spot. And, Wilder will catch Fury with another left hook, right hand combination. And this time Fury doesn't get up. That's always the possibility. All right. But do I see that happening? Do I think that's likely? No. I'm making Fury a heavy favorite. Now, in terms of um, Joshua and Pulev, I think, you know, I think Joshua would have to be the favorite, but I don't necessarily think the fight is going to be. I don't think that the odds should be one-sided. I don't think that that Joshua should be a heavy favorite, given that he's 1-1 in his last two fights, and that the guy in Ruiz in the rematch, he essentially didn't show up. So, yeah, I'm not. I don't have. I have more confidence in Fury than I do in Joshua. Yeah, that basically.
Yeah, because I don't know. I obviously I think Joshua will win the fight, but in the back of my mind, I'm just concerned about him looking ahead. Whereas Fury doesn't even seem to be looking ahead. He wants to take care of the fight that he has in front of him, and he's not even really too worried about Joshua at this point. But we saw Joshua, be in this situation before when everyone was, and no matter who he fought, everyone was talking to him about Wilder. Now everyone's talking to him about Fury, and this time he seems to be falling into the same trap of looking ahead and looking ahead. And he hasn't said anything about Pulev. He hasn't shown any concern about Pulev. So I'm just saying to myself, will lightning strike twice? Probably not, but it's still there in the back of my mind. A lot of people were talking about Fury possibly being depressed because he's going to be out of the ring for a long period of time, and he has a history of depression anyways. And I'm not sure if he's able to go to a boxing gym, but he's putting a lot of videos on, I think, Instagram and Twitter of him and his family doing workouts at the house. He seems very happy. He seems to be in good spirits. Is that something that you think could affect the third fight with Wilder? Do you think his mental state of mind will hold up as we're having to deal with this pandemic and we're dealing with the lockdown? And I know it's been affecting me psychologically, not being able to go to the gym. I'm going out and doing a lot of walking and trying to do some exercise indoors with some push-ups and some core abdominal work, but it's still not the same as going to the gym. And a lot of people I've talked to, they've complained that they don't feel the same and they miss doing certain things that they weren't able to do before. Do you think that's going to play a factor with Fury, like I said, who has a history of depression? Do you think that's something that boxing fans should think about and be concerned about, if they're thinking Fury's going to win, or if they're supporters of Fury? Is that something that people should worry about?
No question. I mean, that's the chink in his armor. That's the knock on Fury is, can the guy keep his nose clean? And I would think a good way to do that is to stay busy, stay in the gym. But right now, that's not an option. So, that's an excellent question. Listen, guys who deal with depression, mental illness, you just don't know. You just don't know what is his trigger. I don't know. So I can only go on what I've seen over his last 2-3 fights, which, has been a guy who looks to be focused. I mean, he certainly looked focused in his last fight. So I can only go on, what the guy has done recently. And, if Tyson Fury from the last fight shows up for the next fight, then there's no doubt in my mind, he's 90% going to beat Deontay Wilder. So, but yeah, you bring up a good point. And, there's just no easy way to answer that question. I mean, what sets him off? I mean, this whole pandemic situation, it's a good question. I mean, I don't know.
So here's something that I talked about with Deontay Wilder because of the surgery and stuff, and obviously there'd be a recuperation, a rehab process in place. When do you think, and do you think right now that Wilder's doing any type of boxing training, or do you think he's mostly doing rehab right now? Because I don't think that this surgery is anything to just dismiss and brush off like it's like like it's not going to be a big deal recovering from this. The guy's been injury prone, and he's in recent years had a lot of injuries, and I've spoke about this a lot already. And like Tyson Fury's doing conditioning work and stuff, but how much how much work, what can Wilder actually do? I don't think he can do much upper body work, much boxing training. I'm sure Fury can still shadow box if he wanted to. He could do a lot of things. I'm not sure if he has access to a boxing gym where he's at, but even if he didn't, he could still do shadow boxing and get in the mirror and kind of throw some punches if he wanted to. And I'm not sure what Wilder is able to do and how long will that recuperation process take before he's able to actually do some real conditioning work, whether it be boxing or otherwise. I'm just curious how that's going to play out for him. And in your opinion, even still, do you think that he can ever bring himself back to 100% at this point in time in his career?
So, do you remember a few years back, it was Canelo Alvarez. I want to say he injured his right hand. I don't recall the extent of the injury. It was right hand or right arm or something to that effect, but I think he had to have some type of surgery on the hand or on his wrist or on his arm. And I recall seeing videos of him in the gym working out with his left hand. And the right hand was in a cast or was in a sling or whatever it was. But he was still training, just that he was not training with his injured arm. So he was maybe working on his hook, working on his jab, working on other things, just not doing anything with the injured arm. So I would like to think that Deontay Wilder right now is doing something similar. Hopefully he's doing some rehab, but then, maybe incorporating into his rehab some type of conditioning and boxing workout, just not using the left hand, if that's possible. So I think that, so to answer your question, I think, yes, I think he can and should do some type of boxing workout, just, without using that injured left hand.
Okay. Brian, what's going on, buddy? How you doing today?
Hey, what's going on? Top of the morning.
Top of the morning. Yeah, so I was talking about how that rumor that was floating around, I guess it was reported by The Athletic, that Wilder, they had some sources. They wrote an article and they used that, the dreaded sources that we hear all the time, but they didn't have any actual quotes of Deontay Wilder saying the things that they were claiming. They had sources. And they were saying that Deontay Wilder would step aside for $10 million and a guaranteed shot at the winner of Joshua versus Fury if it were to happen. Eddie Hearn did an interview today with Sky Sports saying that that Wilder did not say he wanted to step aside, and he dismissed that rumor. And he's basically looking forward to Pulev. But just the fact that they're talking about Wilder and not talking about Pulev, and I asked Fight Doctor this question, because in the first fight with Ruiz, all that was being talked about was him versus Wilder, and it seemed like he was distracted because of that, and admittedly so, he did say that. Do you think now this is going to be deja vu all over again now that they keep talking about Fury before Joshua has taken care of Pulev? Do you think that could be a problem? What are your thoughts on that? Because Fight Doctor and myself think that's plausible that could be a problem.
Yeah, with the matchup with Pulev and Anthony Joshua, or what?
Yeah, because he's got that fight with Pulev ahead, but now he seems to be focused on fighting a unification with Fury, as if that Pulev fight is just an afterthought.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to say something about that, because if he got Pulev in position, a mandatory position to fight Anthony Joshua, and then you got Fury in position to fight against Wilder, let's say that, hypothetically, both of these guys win. You know what I'm saying? Then you got Pulev against Tyson Fury, which is both Bob Arum's fighters, right?
That's correct. Yes.
So I think Bob Arum wants to go for that option rather than all the other options, to get both of them, because he really thinks Pulev is going to beat Anthony Joshua supposedly. So let's say he do pull that off. And, now you got Tyson Fury, he got the WBC belt, and then you got Pulev, he got all the other belts. Now they're going to have a whole unification, and both of them is Bob Arum fighters, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, I'm thinking the business side of it. If I'm a businessman, I would be thinking that's probably the best option. You know what I'm saying? Especially if he got the confidence in his fighters to win,
Yeah. Well, this is what I said yesterday also as well. So if Bob Arum were to just bypass Pulev, allow that fight to not happen, and he went straight to Joshua. Okay, so Fury would probably it looks like they're going to have 2 fights, Fury and Joshua, right? But why would you only take 2 fights if you could have 3 fights if you're Bob Arum? So you could still have Pulev versus Joshua, and then you could still have the 2 Fury fights. Why would you lose out on a payday? Like, why would you take 2 instead of 3? So
Right.
it makes no sense from Bob Arum's standpoint to circumvent Pulev. But this is something that I said the other day as well. I said that, is Eddie Hearn concerned that Pulev may upset the apple cart? So he wants to go straight to Fury. So another mega fight doesn't fall by the wayside.
Right.
You have to ask yourself how much confidence, because it seems like Arum has a ton of confidence in Pulev, has a ton of confidence in Fury. So he's not really concerned. And he feels as though as long as Joshua, he's in a no-lose situation, because if Joshua wins, then he has a mega fight ahead of him with Fury. And Bob can definitely cash in on that as well as Fury. But also, if Pulev wins, then he has an in-house unification fight. So that's a win-win for him too. He don't have to split the pot with another promoter. So Bob's in a no-lose situation. Fury's in pretty much a no-lose situation. It seems like Hearn is the one that's really clamoring for these mandatories or for Wilder and Pulev to step aside. So Hearn's the one that seems a little bit desperate here. And you have to ask yourself why. You have to wonder why. Maybe I'm overreaching here, but he's the one that keeps talking about we got to make this Fury fight. We don't even know when we're going to be able to put that fight in front of a live audience to maximize the revenue. So why is Eddie Hearn so anxious to put this fight on?
I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier about which guy is most likely to win their next fight. And, I think Hearn isn't 100% confident that Joshua can get by Pulev. Like I said, we look at the guy's last 2 fights, he gets knocked out by the substitute teacher, and then he goes 12 rounds with the guy who didn't show up, So, and look, there were moments in that fight where, in the rematch, that Ruiz was making Joshua a little bit uncomfortable, if you go back and watch the fight. But listen, take nothing away from Joshua.
He looked kind of flimsy, huh? He was looking flimsy, huh?
Well, I'm not saying that Joshua was looking flimsy. What I'm saying is that Ruiz had moments in that fight where, if you just look at the body language from Joshua, there were just moments that were reminiscent of the first fight, brief moments. But I think that Joshua fought a very smart, intelligent fight. He was in there, doing everything he was supposed to do. He put on a boxing clinic, to be completely honest, and he looked good. But you know, he was definitely reluctant to engage Ruiz, you know, which was very telling in my opinion. You know, this guy shows up 10 pounds, like 15 pounds, whatever it was. I mean, 200, what was he, 200, 283? So
Yeah, he was 283.
Yeah, so I mean, I recall thinking, you know, why don't you just stand your ground, especially later in the fight? Why don't you just stand your ground and impose your will on this guy? But Joshua wasn't able to do that, and well, not that he wasn't able, he wasn't willing. And in my mind, that speaks volumes. So I think maybe Hearn is reading something out of Joshua's last performance that, you know, Pulev is a guy who perhaps isn't going to come and lay down and just show up for a paycheck. That perhaps Pulev is a guy who's going to come and press the issue and maybe perhaps get a reaction out of Joshua that would be favorable to Pulev's style. So, you know, if I'm Hearn and I'm not 100% confident that my guy is going to, you know, get past his next assignment, then yeah, I mean, maybe they're thinking cash out.
Troy, what's going on, brother? How you doing, my man? I think he's muted. I don't know if he.
How you doing? Hey, Fight Doctor, I agree with you, homie. I just had to say that.
What's up, Troy?
Hey, everything's good. Is that the Fight Doctor, my favorite person?
That's your favorite. That's your nemesis right there. That's your arch enemy. That's your Lex Luthor right there.
Something like that. But yeah,
more like I'm his kryptonite.
Not this life or any life after, my dear sir. Not this life, but I actually like the way Fight Doctor put it together. All until he said he wasn't willing. I think with Joshua, he fought that way purposely just to prove to himself that he could stay in control and outbox the guy. Because if you listen to the press conference, he said he wanted to go in there and and knock him out, but he knew that it was probably in his best interest just to outbox him like this way, you know. And he was honest enough to say that he didn't want to repeat of the first fight. He was being smart, right? Even though the guy came in at 283 and he probably could have warmed down to the body and then took him out, you know, in the later rounds, right?
I got you. Yeah.
So look, you know. Listen, I agree wholeheartedly that Joshua fought a smart fight. That's not a question. He won and he looked good doing it. I agree. He fought a smart fight. But the question is, did he fight as there's an old saying, right? Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and I agree, right? And I said to say this. Did the guy fight like Joshua, like Ruiz stole something from him? Because in effect, that's what happened in the first fight. Ruiz stole something from Joshua, right? And when a guy steals something from you,
that's a good point.
And when a guy steals something from you, your response is supposed to be, I'm going to beat the snot out of you. That's supposed to be your response, okay? Not that I'm just going to ask nicely that you return my property. No, I'm coming to beat the snot out of you because you stole something from me. Now, the question I'm asking is, was that Joshua's response in the rematch? All right, I don't think so. Well, I think that his response was, I'm going to just...
Oh, my bad, man. Go ahead, Fight Doctor. No,
go ahead, please.
You know, one thing that's for sure, I mean, you can look at the fight. You can see a nervous look in Anthony Joshua's face every time they got close and it got, you know, in that certain distance. He had a straight up nervous look on his face, like his eyes got big, just like the look that Wilder had in his face. You know what I'm saying? Anthony Joshua had a nervous look, but see, the thing is, in boxing, you can use that nervousness too. You know what I'm saying? At your advantage, because he used it to not engage and he used it to box. But he definitely had a nervous look on his face. His eyes was like big. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know. But I think he just used it. You know, he used that to go the 12 rounds, and he didn't want to get hurt. Okay, he didn't want to get hurt, but he definitely looked nervous.
I agree with some of what the brother just said. I saw that look in his eyes, to be very honest with you. It's a look that says, well, I know he could hurt me, but he's still, you know, when he boxed, but he engaged when he had to. So, you know, that told me that he was in a struggle. It's like, you know, I want to engage with him, but I don't want to end. I don't want to make any mistakes with him either. So, you know, since I have the skill and we have the fight plan, I'll just follow the fight plan and I'll go from there. But I got to jump off, man. My truck is here.
All right, man. Take
All
care.
right.
Be good.
I mean, like, you know, with AJ, it's like he did good though, even using that nervousness, you know, because he used it to his advantage, because he used it to pretty much not engage with Ruiz, you know, but he definitely had a nervous look on his face. That's for sure. You feel me?
I guess the big thing to look at in that fight is that the Joshua that would show up against Wilder or Fury? And if so, to me, that doesn't look like a winning strategy, because Fury it's going to be hard to do that against Fury, who's got an 84-inch reach, a guy who's really good, a good fighter from not only the outside, but the inside as well as the mid-range. This guy could fight you, you know, at any distance, in my opinion. He's dangerous. Whereas to me, Joshua did well fighting on the outside against a shorter opponent, but we've never really seen him do well fighting outside against a taller opponent. He's more or less a guy who's aggressive and seems to be most dangerous and most powerful from the mid-range area, because I think his best punch is that left hook, which is a mid-range punch. I think that's the most dangerous punch. That and his that punch I like to call a 45, which is a half hook, half uppercut. So
uppercut,
yeah,
hook.
yeah, that 45-degree punch that he has with the left hand as well. So it's a variant of his left hook. So that is the punch that I think is the most dangerous from Joshua. I think he's most dangerous from the left side. Now, he showed that he had a good jab in that Ruiz fight. But one thing I don't like is sometimes, like, he gets lazy with that jab and he'll paw with it. He won't bring it back. And when he does bring it back, he brings it down to his chest. And that's why I think a lot of times he gets hit with right hands. We saw him get hit with a big right hand against Klitschko. That hurt him significantly. We saw him get hit with a big right hand against Parker. And for whatever reason, the ref kind of stopped the fight at that instance. It was just a bizarre turn of events at that point. And we saw Povetkin hit him with a good right hand as well. That kind of busted him up a little bit and hurt him, because he was seriously hurt in that Povetkin fight. I had him losing that fight up until the point of the stoppage, and he looked like he was a little bit ragged in that fight. Credit to him for coming back and getting the stoppage and winning. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think people are going to look at that performance and just say to themselves, well, if this is the AJ that's going to show up against Fury, then I don't think that's going to be the right type of game plan or the right type of style to bring into a fight like that. And the thing with Fury is, you don't know what you're going to get. And he has shown us and the boxing world that he's got so many wrinkles to his game. He's won in so many different ways against top level guys. It's not like he's trying the new stuff against lower level guys. He's pulling out all the stops and showing us a wide array of talent and ability against top level guys. You know, we can argue all day if Ruiz is a top level guy. He's definitely a top 10 heavyweight, but is he on the level of a Deontay Wilder? Is he on the level of a Vladimir Klitschko? You know, is he on the level of those guys? Is he on the level of a Derek Chisora? I mean, or Dillian White? We don't know that. We don't know that because the guy's so hot and cold. We know that if he brings his A game, he's formidable. But the occasions that he does decide to bring his A game, sometimes are too far and few between. So that's the problem engaging how difficult of an opponent Andrew Ruiz is, because you really don't know what Andrew Ruiz is going to show up on the night. I mean, you have to acknowledge the fact that this was arguably the biggest night of his life and he didn't show up. He didn't take it seriously. So if he can't show up for the biggest fight of his life, knowing that if he wins this fight, sky's the limit. I'm going to be a mega star in the sport of boxing. If I beat this guy twice, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire 20 times over, 30 times over if I beat this guy because the sky's the limit. This fight changes my pay grade for a long time as long as I win it and I keep winning. So there was so much on the line for him in this rematch with Joshua. He just let it all slip through his fingers. So I don't know, man. I don't know what you guys think.
Me and
Listen.
Jeff, he already got a bet, you know, AJ versus Fury. He got 200 on AJ. I got 200 on Fury. I'm gonna get my money back on this one for sure. You know, but you know, one thing I could say about Fury, AJ and Wilder going up against Tyson Fury. I mean, Tyson Fury is a beast, man. This dude is an animal. He's big. He's like what, 6'9". What's his reach? I mean, this dude he's an animal, man.
84-inch reach, bro. 84-inch reach.
Man, you gotta be on your A game. You gotta be on your A game to beat this dude, to be honest with you. And it's like, you know, me, I'm a Wilder fan, but I'm gonna be honest. Like, you know, just like if somebody an AJ fan, you gotta be honest with yourself. Our fighters only got a puncher's chance, which is a good chance. You know, they can land them punches. AJ got a puncher's chance just as much as Wilder's got a puncher's chance. But overall, man, Tyson Fury is a difficult opponent. You know what I'm saying? And I mean that in any era. You know what I'm saying? You take this dude and put him in any years of boxing, he's gonna be difficult for anybody. You know what I'm saying? He's just a different kind of animal, man. That's just how it is, you know. But I mean, AJ got a puncher's chance just as much as Wilder's got a puncher's chance, so you can't really count them out at the same time, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna definitely put my money on Fury if he fighting against AJ, and if AJ and Fury happens just that quick, I really think it's a cash out. Cash them out.
Now, who you betting that 200 against? I didn't hear you.
Oh, Jesse.
Jesse's taking AJ over Fury?
Yes, he wants to put the 200 on AJ.
I thought he was a big Fury fan. What the hell's wrong with him
he
now?
switched it up. I'm like, okay, well, I'll put that 200 on your dude since you won the 200 off of him the last time.
Wow.
I win it this time. Get my money back.
Jesse is tripping. Seriously, bro.
Yeah, he trying to put himself in the hole, but it's all good. Go ahead, put your money where your mouth is, you know.
Yeah. All right, guys, man. I ain't got much more to say about this, man. Any closing thoughts?
Now, besides me watching the fight like 2 or 3 more times with Wilder and Fury, and man, you know, I was thinking about the whole situation with his arm, the surgery, the glove, the costume. I'm like, that shit don't even matter, man. He need to get his feet together. You know what I'm saying? His footwork. He need to learn better angles. He need to learn how to up and under. You know, go back to the basics and learn that basic stuff. You know, because in my opinion, you know, it don't matter. I mean, even if these dudes was fighting with no gloves on in the middle of the street, you still got to know this shit. You know what I'm saying? You got to learn that shit, man. Because, you know, while he got this time, that's what he can be doing, just working on his footwork. Because if he don't get that shit together, it's going to be all bad.
I got you. Anything else, Fight Doctor, before we head out, bro?
Yeah, I'm actually skeptical if this Fury Wilder third fight will actually happen anytime soon. I'm doubtful. I don't think, given the circumstances, you know, I mean, like, you know, I understand that pay-per-view generates the majority of the revenue for a fight, but you know, the live gate is still significant. It's still a significant amount of money. And, you know, when you, I mean, we're talking about like millions of dollars for the live gate. So if you subtract that from the total, you know, if you subtract that from the revenue stream, then how does the fight get made? So, you know, I honestly, I think all the talk about a third fight, at least, you know, anytime in the near future is all, you know, smoke and mirrors.
Are they still talking about this year? Fury versus Wilder 3.
Yeah, I don't, and I just think that given this whole pandemic, you know, and I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, you know. So I figure they need to, you know, figure out how, like, where's the I mean, how much was the live gate for the last fight? Was it like $7 million, I think?
Probably more than that. Tickets were expensive.
Right. So, I mean, it's $7 million or more. That's a lot of money. And for it to just go up in smoke, like, well, how do you just discount that? What makes up for that? You know, so until that question is answered, I just don't think that the fight realistically can get made until, you know, this missing revenue can be accounted for.
Yeah, take your time, do it right, huh? I mean, we can wait, man, because I don't see it happening this year either, unless everything just, you know, comes back to normal by like the end of the year. But, you know, you might as well put it off until next year. That's what I'll say. Take your time, do it right.
Yeah, they're probably gonna have to do that. And it's crazy because like Eddie Hearn's straight steady doing interviews, but Bob's kind of been laying low a little bit. Did a few. I'm thinking about reaching out to Bob and getting some answers to some questions that I have. I'm curious to see how he would respond to them. I want to see what the timeline is for that Fury Wilder 3 and what he has planned for a date, or at least probably doesn't have a date now, but like, does he have any type of, like I said, timeline? Does he have any proposed dates, any venues? Is he have any plan moving ahead at least? Does he have any projections, I should say, for this fight? And if so, what are they? Because I'd love to find that out, you know? All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. Everybody stay safe. I'm sure we'll jump on again, maybe today or tomorrow. I'll let you know, Brian, if you want to jump on again with me either today or tomorrow. We can talk about some other topics. But until then, thank you guys for joining in the chat. Thank you guys for supporting the channel as always, and we will see you soon. Have a great day, gentlemen.
All right. Thanks.